Hey everybody, what's up? I'm Don Carr, and I'm here today with Mike Ausman from Taylor. Hey Mike, what's up?
What's happening, Don? Thanks for having me.
Hey man, thanks for being here. So today we're going to talk about the 816 CE Builder's Edition guitar that I'm holding right here. This thing is fabulous, man.
Looks good on you. Looks good on you.
Thanks. Wasn't expecting that. That's nice, thank you.
Well, 2/3.
You know. So Mike, let's dive in and check out this guitar. Okay, starting here, what in the heck? That is crazy.
I think that's the part that everybody's going to be immediately drawn to is this weird looking cutaway, right? Like, oh, my guitar now has 2 holes. What am I supposed to do with that? So think about all of the boutique guitars of the world that had maybe a soundport or an extra aperture on the side of the guitar. It was originally giving a player a little bit more reference point, kind of like a personal monitor.
Sure.
Our master guitar designer and now part owner of the company, Andy Powers, is thinking that that 90-degree angle, that relationship to the sound hole, didn't really provide this, let's call it an extended life of a note. So instead of giving reference to the player, let's give more reference to the listener. So as guitar notes are presented, and then as they mature, as they kind of start to decay, we're used to this really present note in an acoustic and then this slow decline, right? So how do I take the air that's moving out of a body this big and find a way to extend its life a little bit so that, kind of like an opera singer where you get this initial note and then it blooms and blossoms into something that has more tone color, has a more orchestral kind of experience. That's what that aperture is doing, and it's in that optimal space, 45 degrees off the soundboard. So.
Yeah, it really is, because you can hear it and feel it as a player, but I know you can hear it up front as well.
Well, yeah, we've done a lot of testing where if you walk up and somebody's playing the guitar and I cover it, and then I move my hand away, you're like, holy cow, that's a really noticeable difference, and the liveliness of the guitar really comes out. But now you've got more air moving around the guitar, so for studio players and people who are looking for a really true kind of cinematic acoustic voice, this thing is pretty much unmatched. So it's quite unusual. It's very boutique. From your perspective, though, I'm interested. Can you see the secondary sound hole from the player's perspective?
Let me see. Kinda, sorta. Kinda, sorta.
So it's almost like a shadow.
Right.
But when you look at the guitar from behind, you won't see any cutaway, and that's kind of a really incredible engineering feat. So.
Yeah, good point. I didn't even think about that aspect of it, but yeah, I mean, like from here, you can't see it at all. You kind of got to tilt it down, and it's like, and then, oh, okay, well, there it is.
Yep, and it's a piece of ebony that's kind of milled in this really elliptical shape. It's a very difficult piece of engineering and woodworking for us. So Andy Powers has come up with a really incredible method to putting something that's both functional art as well as sonically, improving what a bigger body guitar can do. Yeah,
that's pretty awesome, man. And it really is effective, and it gives you more miking options as well,
I think so. I mean, I think people are who really geek out over mics and placement are gonna have a lot of fun with their mic collection, figuring out optimal ways to capture all this air that's moving now around the body, not just out of the sound hole.
Right. Yeah, and it's a different effect than coming out of the sound hole as well, because the sound hole's closer to the center of the guitar, and it's more forceful. This is a little softer.
Yeah, I mean, when you think about the way acoustics work, you have this kind of globe of a sound wave that comes out of that sound hole, and given the materials and if they're all solid or not, how far it'll take to dissipate. But now you've got guitar that's almost breathing out of 2 nostrils instead of 1.
Right.
That's the kind of way I think about it.
Man, another fine detail on this guitar, going the opposite direction, something a lot less obvious but really important, is the satin finish on this guitar. This is amazing.
Yeah. It's part of our Builder's Edition collection. So when Andy Powers came on several years ago, he started building guitars that we refer to almost as a director's cut. If Andy, who's a professional builder and player, wanted attributes in his own guitars, what would that look like? One of them is this silent satin. It's a chemistry that's different than our gloss and our satin. It's somewhere in between, but it is a very difficult finish to put on a guitar because it requires an environment for that. But everybody needs that moment when your guitar isn't making a lot of noise, if it's in the studio, if you're having a jam session. So it has this kind of glide that people kind of enjoy and don't even think about, but reap the benefits from.
Yeah, absolutely. It retains the look of the satin, so you don't have the gloss thing. So you definitely like the satin look. But this, so much quieter. Oh my gosh!
What? I didn't.
Did you catch that?
Yeah,
just barely.
Just a whisper.
Yeah, because normally when you're playing a satin guitar, got to roll your sleeve up, wear short sleeves, and still kind of be careful not to rub against the guitar and make a lot of noise. This doesn't do that.
Actually, the satin finishes that we use are even thicker than the silent satin that we're using, but given just the different nature of the finish, it kind of retains that luster of even a French polish. So some of that boutique nature of builder's editions kind of comes through even just from what's on the exterior of the wood.
Right, so it's not only functional, looks great too.
Yeah, totally. Other things to note about it being a builder's edition is that chamfered edge.
Yeah.
So like I tell folks, it's kind of like going from a pill to a gel cap. It's just all about comfort for the player.
Yeah.
So there's no sharp edges anywhere on the guitar, so it just makes you want to embrace it even more.
Okay, so body shape, this is a Grand Symphony. Now, is that something that Taylor's brought back? Because you had it for a while and then it kind of went away, so.
Yeah, so Grand Symphony was created by Bob Taylor. And in his position at that time, you know, Grand Auditorium, which is our most popular shape, anything that ends in a 4 on the label, was prominent, but players were asking for a little bit more bass, a little bit more power, a little bit more headroom. So at the moment, when Bob was considering how to do that, it turned out it needed more physical real estate. So you took the waist up a little bit, you took the hips out a little bit, and now I've got a guitar that kind of tips that scale of balance that a Grand Auditorium has into something that has a little bit more low end. Since then, Andy Powers and the creation of V-class bracing and the architecture inside the guitar, it balanced everything out a little bit. So we needed to find a way to make Grand Symphony, which has now been re-released this year, play nicely. 816 CE changed a couple of specs. First, we went from medium strings to light strings, and we went from a standard scale of 25.5 inches down to a short scale, 24 7/8. So now you've taken a guitar that used to have a lot of physical tension to produce a lot of power, scaled back a little bit to create even more comfort, because the V-class architecture balances out its response, both from a sustain standpoint and volume, so I can get a little bit less tension on the strings, which makes it even easier to play. So it's great to have this guitar back in our lineup because it's still a big, powerful strummer, but it's not as fightful as it used to be.
Yeah, and Taylors are always great to play, but this is super comfy, man. It really is. I can feel the tension difference.
Again, it's probably not for everybody. It lives in that more boutique world now, but with the Builder's Edition attributes, that's going to pull a lot of players in who are looking for guitars that play easier, that sound great, that have a physical, tactile experience that's kind of unmatched to even anything that we make. But sonically, it's going to create a whole nother color for somebody's sonic palette, and I think that's always the quest we're looking for when it's time for that next guitar.
Absolutely, absolutely. Mike, thanks so much, man. Really appreciate it. And thanks for checking out the 816 CE Builder's Edition with us. If you have any questions about this or any other Taylor product, make sure to contact your Sweetwater sales engineer, or you can check us out online at sweetwater.com. Thanks.